In this segment, we are going to address some landmark study in the field of resilience, which includes Kauai study by Emmy Werner, Buffalo Creek disaster by Coral and colleagues, and Australian bushfire study by McFarlane and Hoof. There are about a dozen of longitudinal studies which have examined this phenomenon over extended period of time from infancy to childhood. The Kauai longitudinal study by Werner and Smith is one landmark study that has examined development from birth to midlife. The study explores the impact of a variety of biological and psychosocial risk factors, stressful life events, and protective factors on a multiracial cohort of 698 children born in 1955 on the Hawaiian island of Kauai, the westernmost country in the US. In this study, a team of mental health workers, pediatricians, public health nurses, and social workers monitored the development of all children born on the island at the ages 1, 2, 10, 18, 32, and 40 years. They chose these ages because they represent stages in life cycle that are critical for development of thirst, autonomy, industry, identity, intimacy, and generativity, as suggested by psychosocial stages of Erikson. From 30% of survivors in the study population were born and raised in poverty, had experienced pre or perinatal complication, lived in families troubled by chronic discord, divorce, or parental psychopathological, and were reared by mothers with less than 8th grade of education. Two-thirds of the children who had experienced 4 or more such risk factors by age 10 had delinquency record or mental health problem by age 18. However, 1 out of 3 of these children grew into competent, confident, and caring adult with good cognitive and metacognitive needs, with developed and healthy personality dynamics. They did not develop any behavior or learning problems during childhood or adolescence. They succeeded in the school, managed home and social life well, and set realistic educational and vocational goals and expectations for themselves. By the time they reached age 40, not one of these individuals was unemployed, none had been in trouble with the law, and none had to rely on social services. Their divorce rates, mortality rates, and rate of chronic health problems were significantly lower and midlife than those of their same-sex peers. Their educational and vocational accomplishment was equal or even exceeded those of children who had grown up in more economically secure and stable home environment. Their very existence challenges the myth that a child who is a member of a so-called high-risk group is fated to become one of life's loser. The Buffalo Creek Valley is in Logan County, West Virginia. Residents made their living primarily through the coal mining industry. On 26 Feb 1972, after several days of heavy rain, a dam made by some coal mining company pouring millions of gallons of water and black coal waste into the valley below. After 20 minutes, the flood waters receded. In their wake, 125 people were dead and thousands were left homeless, and the landscape and community were devastated. It was many weeks before the worst of the debris were cleared away. The litigation got involved as people thought the dam constructed by mining companies was not strong enough to hold on flood. But one thing was sure, that there was a lot of rain happened on that dreadful day for a good 20 minutes. Both sides of the party collected data of the aftermath of this disaster. Same time, psychiatrists and psychologists were also involved in a follow-up longitudinal study. One by Coral and colleagues in 2002 documented in great detail some of the effects that first time on children and their caregivers. Findings of this particular study was being replicated and cited in many further studies of resilience. Some of the findings this study reported suggest that there are huge gender differences in post-traumatic stress disorder. Girls often showed more symptoms of internalizing the worries and not exhibiting it on the surface. More prone to anxiety and depression. On the other hand, boys showed more aggression and disruptive behavior. There were differences in the aftermath of amount of exposure of trauma or loss and experiences of death and reconstruction with the children. Like young children often have nightmares and things as well. and they also react often very badly at losing the care their parents and their caregivers. They also saw children could show trauma symptoms that have also been observed in classic studies of resilience. Some of them showed developmental delays, like for example, their toilet trainings got delayed, they suffered from nightmares and bedwetting. Some children couldn't sleep when it rained, for example, after this terrible flood which they associated with rain. There was some conduct related and acting out disorders reported. In this study, they also observed that how well the children were doing after shortly this disaster, long after this experience, depending a great deal on how the parents were doing, so that the family and pairing functioning mattered for the children, and again that would be replicated in many other studies. This study was a 17-year follow-up. It suggested that for most of the child exposed, there was some residual effects that they could observe after 17 years. It was evident after this due course of time that some continued to have symptoms of trauma, while there were also children who emerged as such adults who was also affected by flood and recovered and gotten on with their lives. The last example I want to give you to illustrate some of the classic finding is another study of natural disaster. In this case, bushfires in Australia. This occurred in 1983, devastating breakout of fires that caused great loss of life and injury, and many people had to flee. These fires were moving so quickly they had to flee from the fires, and McFarlane did another one of the most important studies in the history of resilience, because shortly after the bushfire disaster, McFarlane was able to do a study comparing school children. These were primary school children who were far from areas highly exposed, who were from areas highly exposed to bushfire, with children in the Australia, the same region of Australia, who had much lower exposure, lower direct exposure to the bushfires. Both the groups of school attending children were matched socio-demographically, so it's one of the best comparison group studies. And here again, they not only studied the children shortly after the bushfires, but they did a 20-year follow-up where they recently published their findings. There comes many striking findings from this work. They actually compared two groups, one who were actually affected by the Australian bushfire and one who were far away from that bushfire. The two groups of the children were being compared. I just wanted to mention two of them. One is that they observed, again as a researcher had observed during World War II, that one of the most important factors for children in the midst of something this scary is separation from caregivers. The children did much better who were not separated. It's inevitable in this kind of life-threatening situation that sometimes children get separated from their parents, but they found that the children who were in close proximity with their parents just simply responded better. They had an easier time than the children who experienced the bushfire and got separated from their parents. They did see some enduring effects from this fire experience. Certainly most people recalled it, but by and large, as in other long-term studies, they found that over time, most of the bad reaction to the bushfire subsided, and most of the children grew up and showed recovery and resilience. So a number of these studies suggest that resilience is the aftermath of even devastating experiences, and we will be exploring that theme more throughout this study, this course. Thank you.